believe it or not, and you may think I'm overselling this, I'm about to give you the best news you have ever heard. Well, aloha kakahiaka, brothers and sisters, or aloha awinala, or aloha ahiahi, depending on what time of day you're watching this. Welcome to Mission Zero. If this is your first time here, my name is Shawn, and this is The Word with Friends, the show where we take a deep dive into language and communications in order to bring us all closer together. So what I think we need to talk about today is a word that gets thrown around a whole lot, but I think not a lot of people really put thought into what it means and what's behind it and what's the idea that you're trying to convey, and that is the word gospel. So the English word gospel appears in the King James just shy of 100 times. And the word itself is pretty easy. Gospel comes from the Old English good spell, which just means good story. And it comes from a Greek word, euangelion. And euangelion means, similarly, the good message that is delivered by a messenger of God. And what does that do to help you actually understand it? Not a whole lot. So what I think we need to do today is lay out a few different gospels to see if we can get to a common understanding of what does this word mean and what is its importance. Okay, so the first gospel that I think we need to talk about is the gospel of peace. And this is given to us by the Apostle Paul. And what the gospel of peace says is that God is at peace with us. I think so many people get trapped in this circle of feeling like God is either out to get you or he's just given up on you. And this message of peace, is that that's never true. God is not looking for a reason to destroy you. God loves you boundlessly. Right, and so that bleeds beautifully into the second gospel that we need to talk about, which is the gospel of grace. Now, we've talked about grace before, and as a refresher, grace just means the outpouring of connectedness and love towards another person. The Apostle Paul gave us the gospel of grace, and he did it by illustrating that God is the comforter. Paul was a guy who spent a lot of time in prison and being beaten, and so he knew something about needing the comfort of God. And so the gospel of grace is so critical to understand because God's grace towards us is boundless. He's not looking for us to suffer. He's not making bad things happen in our lives. He is there beside us through all of our challenges to help us grow. So that brings us nicely to the third gospel that we need to talk about today, which is the gospel of Jesus Christ. Now, this is the gospel that most people are talking about when they use the word gospel. And it is the message that God took the form of a man, Jesus, and came to be killed on the cross for the sins of humanity and was raised again to be seated at the right hand of the Father 3 days later to advocate for us. Now, this is a powerfully good message, and it takes a little bit of foothold. The gospel of peace shows that God is not out to get you. The gospel of grace shows that he loves you and he wants to help you. And the gospel of Christ proves that he did. And it didn't just stop there, because the fourth gospel that we need to talk about is the gospel of the kingdom. Now, this is the gospel that Jesus himself preached. And that message is that all the burden of oppression and law and condemnation that people tend to put on themselves, none of that's right. The gospel of the kingdom says that there are two things that you must do. Love God with all your heart, your mind, and your soul, and love other people as yourself. It's not about what you shouldn't do. It's about what your heart leads you to do to maximize your life. Okay, so we looked super briefly at 4 different gospels. What does that do to inform the meaning of the word gospel for us? Well, I think a lot of people tend to conflate gospel with Bible, right? We think, oh, well, the Bible is the gospel. The Bible is a collection of gospels because there is no such thing as one good news. The thing about good is that it is subjective. It's what you're going through right now. The critical thing to understand about this word and really about the concept is that God will give a multitude of messages to you because what you need for good news may change 100 times in a week. It may change 100 times in a day. But the real good news is that everything He does is focused on you. Every message, every gospel is meant to support you, to sustain you, to drive you, and to grow you. And there is no message better than that. And so you know what? I don't have an exhortation for us today. What I have is a word from God for us today. And that word is, He loves you. Not you in some general sense, you in specific. And every bit of every gospel, whether it's in the Bible or in your heart calling to you, it is a message of good news to you that is intended to drive you and to give you something to hold on to. Every challenge in your life, everything that you go through is meant to build you, and every gospel is intended to bring you to the other side bigger, stronger, better than you ever thought possible. And so take that word today and use it to become even you-ier than you were before. And may God pour out the blessings of support and motivation and purpose and love and grace and peace in your life. And I love you so, so much. Peace out.